My name is Elena Vargas. I am 31 years old and a hard-working woman focused on my career. I live with my husband Patrick in a house we bought recently. I have been thinking a lot about starting a family. But Patrick has different ideas. He says we must first save enough money to build our own house and settle down before having children. So both of us are working hard to save for our future home. Although I want to have children soon, every time I mention the topic Patrick stays firm in his decision. He reminds me of the importance of getting a house first. It is frustrating that he does not seem to understand how I feel. To help reach our goal faster, I have decided to work even harder and contribute more to our savings. Patrick and I have been married for 1 year, but I have noticed something in our relationship. He does not usually take my opinions seriously. This was also evident when we were just dating. I admired how strong Patrick was, but now I realize that marriage should be based on both of us respecting each other's points of view. I am starting to worry about some aspects of our relationship. I feel even more frustrated because his parents are very involved in our lives. Patrick's parents live nearby and he visits them frequently. He says these visits help us save money. However, I discovered that sometimes he goes out for drinks with his co-workers but does not include those expenses in our savings plan. It feels unfair that he is so strict with me regarding saving but more relaxed with his own spending. He even asks me to use less hot water and turn off the lights quickly, but he does not follow these same rules. If he treated us more equally, perhaps I would not feel that our relationship is so unbalanced. Every week we visit Patrick's parents and it seems a new issue always comes up. Often they ask when we plan to have a baby. It has been a year since we got married. They say, when will we be able to see our grandchild? These constant comments put a lot of pressure on me. Meanwhile, Patrick simply sits by my side in silence and does not say much to support me. This situation is very frustrating. I feel like I am carrying the weight of these expectations alone. Patrick's focus on saving and the pressure from his parents to start a family make me feel stuck. Marriage should be a partnership where both listen and support each other. I hope Patrick and I can learn to work better together. Not only to save money but also to make important decisions for both of us. I want our marriage to feel like a true partnership where both of us feel heard and valued. I can see it in Patrick's face. He looks at me with disapproval. It is clear he wants to tell me do not say unnecessary things. Just like me, he also wants to have a child, but he insists that we must first build our own house. What frustrates me even more is how his parents keep pressuring me. Their silence is inappropriate. It is wrong that they continue bothering me with this topic, especially when Patrick is the one not willing to take the next step. After the meal that night, Patrick casually announced that he was going out to smoke. Then one of my in-laws said something that hurt me deeply. It seems you are always working. If you want to be a real housewife, you should quit your job and focus on being a good wife. Maybe that is why Patrick does not pay attention to you. His words felt like a slap. It seemed they were blaming me for not having children just because I have a career. I could not hold it in any longer. It was Patrick who asked me to work in the first place. I responded, if you are so concerned about this, why do you not talk to your son first instead of lecturing me all the time? My voice rose with anger. I also want to have children, but Patrick refuses to even consider it until we have a house. If you want to convince someone, start with him. Stop putting all the blame on me. My words left them stunned. An uncomfortable silence took over the table. I stood up, murmured an apology and walked out. When I reached the entrance, my anger was no longer toward them but toward Patrick. There he was, smoking calmly by the door as if nothing had happened. I got into the car without saying much, but Patrick followed me and asked, "Hey, are we leaving?" His tone sounded completely indifferent to what had just happened. I knew he would never be honest with his parents about our situation, and that made me feel even more fed up with all the stress they were piling on me. When the car started, I said to Patrick firmly, "I am not going to visit your parents' house anymore." He looked surprised and asked me why. "We save on food by eating there, and do not you want a house and children too?" That was the last straw. I could not stand the constant demands from his parents or from him any longer. Both seemed more interested in blaming me than in working together to solve the real problems. It was clear that something had to change, and I was not going to stay silent anymore. I snapped at him, "If saving money is so important, why do you not stop drinking or smoking instead of driving to your parents' house just to save on one meal? Why do you not focus on saving in a way that really makes a difference?" My frustration overflowed. While I continued, "We all need a break sometimes, but you keep imposing all these rules like not using hot water or turning off the lights at 9 at night. You think we can save money without you sacrificing anything? If I have to do it all alone, then I do not even want the house. I am tired of this. Patrick tried to downplay it, saying it was not a big deal, but I replied, yes it is. How much patience do you think I have? I have put up with this for so long. I was also furious about how he acted in front of his parents, pretending I was the reason we did not have children. I told him I am tired of always being blamed for not giving them grandchildren. It is not me who does not want to have children. It is you. I have been saying for a long time that I want to have children soon, so stop being so stubborn. Seeing Patrick struggle to handle my unusual outburst gave me a small sense of relief. But that did not solve anything. I turned away and looked out the car window, ignoring him. I felt exhausted, not knowing what to do next. 2 months later, something changed between us. My uncle, my father's brother, passed away. He had been a wealthy man, owner of several lands, a large mansion, and a luxurious lifestyle. His passing seemed to catch Patrick's attention. Wow, I did not know you had such an impressive relative, Patrick said, clearly surprised. A few days after my uncle's death, I received news about his inheritance. I decided to discuss the details with the lawyer in our apartment. The inheritance was related only to me, so I knew it was not something that involved Patrick. When the lawyer arrived, I politely asked Patrick to leave the room. He seemed uncomfortable with the topic of the inheritance anyway, and it was a personal matter that did not concern him. This whole experience made me reflect on our relationship. Patrick's behavior, from his frugality to his unwillingness to make concessions, had worn me down. However, he suddenly seemed very intrigued by my uncle's wealth. Despite having been so dismissive about everything else, it was frustrating and disappointing. The meeting about the inheritance felt like a moment where I could finally focus on something that was mine without his interference or criticism. This made me realize that I needed to stand up for myself more often and not let Patrick's controlling ways dominate every aspect of my life. I decided to keep Patrick out of any issues that might arise if he got involved in the discussion about the inheritance. After approximately 6 hours listening to the lawyer explain all the details, I thanked him for his time and said goodbye. When I finished, I noticed that Patrick, who had been home earlier, was nowhere to be found. I assumed he had gone out to avoid interrupting the meeting, so I began preparing dinner without giving it much thought. 5 months later, Patrick approached me and said he had something he wanted to show me. Without giving much explanation, he took me in the car. While driving, I felt a mix of excitement and curiosity. We entered a residential area, but my confusion grew when we parked in front of a house I did not recognize. Patrick pressed the doorbell, and to my surprise, his parents came out to greet us. This is not their house, I thought, feeling uncomfortable. My father-in-law welcomed us, saying, "Finally you made it. When you move in, Elena, you should prepare to live here with us before the end of the month." His words took me completely by surprise. Then he began accusing me of being a selfish daughter-in-law and of always blaming Patrick for the delay in having children. I shot a piercing look at Patrick, stunned and angry. Why would he bring me here after I had made it clear that I did not want to visit his parents? I tried to understand what was happening and asked Patrick why he had done this. He shrugged casually and said, "Do not get so angry. If we live together, that will help you and my mom get closer. Besides, this will be our new home, so you should try to work with him too on the topic of children." Live together, I repeated, feeling disbelief. I had never agreed to live with his parents, especially after all the stress and pressure they had put on me. I reminded him that I had specifically told him I would not return to his parents' house. Then I explained that what I wanted was a single-family house. My plan had always been that eventually we would live with my parents. So what is the problem with living in a single-family house now? His words left me speechless. The idea of living with his parents after everything I had endured was not something I could accept. Worse still, Patrick had made this decision without even talking to me first. The air felt heavy as his question remained unanswered. That moment made it clear to me that Patrick and I were not on the same page about what we wanted for our future. The frustration and betrayal I felt were overwhelming, and I knew this was not something I could ignore. I thought a lot about the situation of living in a single-family house, and it was a big decision, especially when I considered our financial situation. I knew that building such a beautiful house did not seem possible with our savings. I could not understand how Patrick had managed it. My dad and I were contributing money. Patrick explained casually that now our savings were empty, but there was no problem. His relaxed attitude left me confused. Then he added, "I heard that your uncle's inheritance is worth 920,000 pesos, so if you use that money to pay us the cost of the house, it should work." I was shocked that he really thought my inheritance should automatically go to the house without even asking me first how it should be used. My decision was not his. The fact that he assumed otherwise bothered me deeply. When I rejected the idea, Patrick became visibly frustrated. He reached into his bag and pulled out a divorce form already pre-filled with his name written. "Your inheritance is our money. If you do not want to live with my parents, then let us get divorced," he said coldly. I took the divorce form from his hand, feeling a strange sense of relief. "All right," I responded firmly. "If living with your parents is the only other option, then divorce is the better choice." I put the form in my bag, turned my back on him, and walked away. His parents were stunned, and Patrick stood paralyzed with a face full of confusion. I did not wait for him to respond. I left, took a bus back to our apartment, and decided to take control of my life. Once I got home, I signed the divorce form, putting my name next to his. I did not hesitate. I sent the papers immediately, knowing I could no longer stay in that apartment. I went to a home improvement store and bought some cardboard boxes to start packing. But I realized I could not handle the move alone, so I hired a moving company. Fortunately, it was the low season, so they were able to help me move quickly. While packing, I felt a mix of emotions: relief, sadness, and determination. It was not an easy decision to end my marriage. But I knew that living in a situation where my voice was ignored and my boundaries were crossed was no longer something I could accept. By taking these steps, I was finally prioritizing my own happiness and peace. It was no longer just about breaking out of the vicious cycle. I was packing my belongings for the move, although it was about moving forward in life on my own terms. The road ahead seemed uncertain, but I felt ready to face it with strength and confidence. While packing, I heard a commotion outside the main door. It was Patrick trying to enter. I had the chain lock on, and I called out, "Sorry, the chain lock is on. I do not know what you might do when you're angry. Besides, I need to finish packing. Could you stay at your parents' house for a few days?" Patrick's voice was firm when he responded, "I will not accept a divorce." His statement took me by surprise. I paused and replied, "But you handed me the divorce form yourself. Is that not right? If you signed it, that means you accepted the divorce. Do you understand what you have done?" He seemed frustrated but did not say much. His frown deepened, and then he quickly changed the topic. "Why would you give up an inheritance of 920,000 pesos? Normally it would be inherited," he questioned. It seemed he had heard fragments of the story about the inheritance but did not know all the details. Probably after learning the amount, he rushed to tell my in-laws, and they impulsively decided to buy the single-family house, assuming they would cover it. They had not stopped to think about the consequences. I took a deep breath and explained to them that the inheritance came to me because there was no one else to claim it. My uncle had 2 sons, 2 daughters, a wife, and grandchildren, but everyone renounced the inheritance. So it ended up coming to me. Yes, my uncle had 920,000 pesos, but he also had to demolish his mansion, spend a lot, maintain his land, and pay significant debts. After understanding all that, I realized it was better to renounce the inheritance than to take it and deal with all the problems it involved. Patrick looked at me with disbelief, as if he could not believe what I was saying. "So even if you had inherited 920,000 pesos, you were saying there would not be much left? That is fraud." I shook my head. "No, it is not fraud. The lawyer and I discussed everything properly. The truth is, someone only heard part of the discussion but did not stay long enough to hear everything. They misinterpreted the story and spread false information. That was how all this confusion started." My explanation left Patrick speechless. For the first time, he seemed to realize the mistake he had made. He had jumped to conclusions, made plans without consulting me, and had involved his parents in decisions based on incomplete information. While I continued packing, I could feel that Patrick was finally reflecting on his actions. Although I did not know if he fully understood the consequences, one thing was clear. I was not going to let myself be dragged into a life where my voice and my decisions did not matter. This was the beginning of a new chapter in which I would take control of my own life, free from the pressures of Patrick and his family. "It is too late," I said firmly. "You betrayed my trust. We already filed for divorce and we are no longer a couple. Why are you suddenly saying you do not want the divorce now? If you really did not want this, you should have followed me immediately when I left." I reminded him. I explained that his actions had consequences and that no regret could change what had already happened. "Your mother's opinion about the divorce does not change the fact that you and your father invested in the single-family house without considering my feelings or even discussing it with me. Your mother does not understand the value of money because she has never worked or handled finances the way I have. But that is no longer my problem." I realized I was no longer responsible for listening to their complaints about his family. If we were still married, perhaps it would have mattered, but now we are not a couple. Besides, you sent the divorce papers. Patrick seemed desperate and begged, "If you have not submitted them yet, we can fix this." Please let us live together in a single-family house. We can make it work. I shook my head. I already sent the divorce papers. There is no turning back. His face fell and he stood outside the apartment door looking lost and defeated. While thinking that he had brought this on himself, I did not want to leave him outside forever, but I had no time to waste. So I focused on my preparations for the move. After a while he left and I continued with my plans. Later I informed my workplace about the divorce, especially because my boss had previously acted as a mediator between Patrick and me. I felt obliged to apologize for how things turned out. During lunch I also told my co-workers the situation, many of whom had attended our wedding. To my surprise, Patrick burst into my department that day. In front of everyone he exclaimed, "It is absurd that you are talking openly about the divorce. I wish you had not mentioned it." He explained that word had spread in his department where people wrongly believed I had inherited a fortune and refused to use it for the house. He claimed he was judged unfairly and avoided by his colleagues because of our divorce. The discomfort of the situation won me the sympathy of my co-workers. Over time Patrick found it unbearable and finally quit his job. During this difficult period something unexpected happened. A colleague approached me and confessed that he had really liked me for a long time. He told me, "I admire your strength and I would love to build a life with you, a home where we can communicate and resolve things like true partners." His words moved me deeply. For the first time in a long time I felt hope about what the future held for me. I realized that moving forward was not just about leaving the past behind, but about creating a better and happier life for myself, one where I could truly be understood and respected. Thank you for listening to today's story. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. See you in the next story.